Hi everyone, it's me. I wanted to talk about something a little bit more serious and something that certain individuals can connect to because I'm hoping my story will help someone else who has been a victim of whether it's sexual assault or rape. And there are certain cases where it also can apply to someone who was molested or has been harassed at some time in their life. So, I've discussed before the fact that I was raped when I was 19 while serving in the military by a US, Army soldier. And my rape went unreported and I did not get treatment for my rape either. There, that's better. So anyways, you're dealing with someone who is 19 that has been victimized, sexually assaulted. Part of my assaults, um, parts of my assault were very um, vile. It's just the way it was. And so my rape went unreported. I didn't talk to anyone about it. My rape was one of the reasons my relationship ended. I had been engaged at the time, and I eventually became pregnant, and here I am, you know, single female soldier in the military. I had already broken up with my then fiance, and my pregnancy, there's a little bit more information to it than what I'm going to share at this particular time because it was a very personal situation, and it's something that I'll delve into at another time when I'm ready. So anyways, here I am, pregnant. um, my daughter's father and I had broken up, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I ended up dating someone else. I wasn't that far along in my pregnancy, and everyone in the barracks knew I was pregnant. So, started dating another, soldier who lived in the barracks, and we ended up um, getting engaged within a period of time. And he said that as long as he could sign the birth certificate, we would, move on with our lives and, raise what would then be our first daughter together, and then move on and start our lives together. And everything was pretty cool. I mean, we got along well. We had a lot of the same tastes in music. We were both from Wisconsin. He was from a smaller town than I was. Everything was on the up and up. We had fun. Um, we like we had a lot in common. Our personalities were really quite different, and I was more of an extrovert, and he was more of an introvert. And we didn't meet each other's families. You just had to go on with what you knew um, about that person and according to the interaction you had and how it went while you were dating, while living in the barracks. And then, I got an engagement ring and we got married at the courthouse in Tacoma. I think it was Tacoma. This is way back when. It was just 1991. And then we moved into an apartment close to the base, and I took an honorable and he stayed in. So we were a military family. And here I am, a victim of sexual assault and rape. It was undiagnosed, it was unreported, there was no therapy involved. I just thought I could move on and have a normal life with a normal person and everything would be fine. And it was the red flags started fairly early on. I had had really good friends in the military that lived close, and my now husband insisted I was not allowed to hang out with these other women that I had served with because he was worried about their influence on me. And he stated to me that I was not allowed to tell other people about our life, our marriage, etc. If I went out maybe to an Al Anon meeting and I was home 5-10 minutes late, I would be accused of cheating, that I had effed some other guy in the back of our minivan. And, you know, I was told, it got worse over time, but I was called a bitch, a whore, and a slut because my daughters had different fathers. Because, we had our first daughter, signed the birth certificate, and then we went on to have another daughter not too soon after. He ended up getting orders to go overseas, and I got pregnant and found out I was pregnant shortly after he left. So here I am, I'm pregnant. We had our first daughter, she was 9 months, now I'm pregnant. When he was overseas, he told me I wasn't allowed to have any men in our home, even if they were family members. And I remember I needed help moving something, and my sister's then boyfriend offered to come and help. And here I am, had a 9-month-old, and I'm pregnant. He wouldn't allow him to come into the house. And it got to be very scary. I remember even before he left to go overseas, before I was pregnant with our second daughter, we would be at the grocery store and he would cover our newborn up, our first daughter, and he wouldn't allow people to see her because he said that was nobody else's business. And it was just really scary. The once in a while there would be this huge outburst about, I remember I would always go to the thrift store and I bought a lamp for $2 and put it in the house. And one day he exploded about this lamp. And I said, it can't be about the lamp. There has to be something else going on. So it was just very scary because you don't know when the outbursts are going to happen. It's just really, it's like a bomb going off. It was really quite something. So every day I was walking on eggshells. I don't think the kids ever witnessed the outburst. It was always when the kids were playing outside or in bed or things like that. And then I remember us going home when our first daughter was a couple of months old, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 months. I met his family, and his dad was really nice. His brothers were cool, but his mom was the most cruel and degrading and abusive alcoholic I had ever met in my life. And I remember bringing our daughter in and she was asleep, and she told me to go lay her in the dog bed in front of the television. And she knew our first daughter was not his biological daughter, that he had signed the birth certificate, and she told him if he told any family members about paternity that she would disown him. It got so bad one time that I remember she was calling him a shitty father or something like that, and I said, we need to go, and we got up and left. And I just remember having severe anxiety, panic attacks, and nausea, and just would get this pit in my stomach when we were driving up to their town to visit with them. It was just awful. So there were all these warning signs. And I know because my rape went untreated and undiagnosed, I simply was drawn to men, or a man who continued to abuse me after my rape was said and done. I was only drawn to men who would never treat me with any value whatsoever. I remember when I was very young, I had to have been 25, and our girls at that time were probably 3 and 4. And I had no libido. I didn't want to have sex. And he knew this because if I look back at letters that he wrote, a lot of the letters he wrote to me when we were at home, he'd leave notes and he'd say, I hope tonight we can, things like that. So I didn't have a libido, and I thought because I had 2 very young children, and I went to the doctor and I said, I simply don't have a libido. I don't know what's going on because I'm really young. And I know now, after being through so much therapy, that because of the abuse I had suffered with him, my body, mind, and spirit started shutting down to him to protect itself. So that's what happened in my case. I can't tell you how absolutely terrifying it is to live with someone who is emotionally and mentally abusive. I can't tell you. I remember one time we were on the base and I was picking him up from work, and he was walking out of work with one of his buddies, and his buddy and I got into some sort of a disagreement, and his buddy said to me, "Suck my you know what," and my then husband didn't say anything, and he would never defend me against anyone. It was like the scariest thing in the whole world. I'm not claiming I am blameless here, but I'm just letting you know what can happen as a result of if you don't get treatment after you are sexually assaulted, raped, or molested, what path your life will take when it comes to relationships. I'm just telling you, rape makes you feel as if you are not worthy, that you are a piece of garbage and you will never be good enough. So all you all you know and what is instinctual is that you will be drawn to men who treat you the same way your rapist treated you, like a piece of garbage. And then your job is to keep this facade up because you're so extremely embarrassed and you're so humiliated, and you may be in the kind of relationship where you don't make, as a woman, I stayed home with my girls and I did have a daycare, but it wasn't like generating a lot of money. So I was too embarrassed to tell my family. I didn't tell anyone. In fact, what's really interesting is my maternal grandfather loved my then husband, and they were like two peas in a pod because they had both served in the military together and this and that, and I think they both had the same MOS. So already you have my family who loves him, who thinks he's a hero because he married me, a woman who had been who had been single and pregnant. He signed the birth certificate. So I think he did that to build his rep with my family. So all of my family thought he was like the greatest guy ever. Yet behind closed doors, I was living in absolute degradation and fear. And I just remember the end of our relationship coming around the time the internet came out and everyone had dial up. And I was on the internet and I was playing online games. And I was telling people what I was going through, and they said, "You got to get out." And I said, "Okay." And I filed for divorce. And I remember the, the day he moved out was the first day in 8.5 years that I felt safe. I can't begin to tell you how overwhelming it was to finally not have a, a, a mental and emotional terrorist living in your home. So, I know we were both young and I know things were going on, but I'm just telling you right now, you should never, ever, ever allow your sexual trauma to go untreated and undiagnosed and things along those lines. I can't tell you how important it is to stop the cycle from continuing. If you are raped and you don't talk about it and you don't deal with it, chances are you will end up in my same situation. My ex-husband did not sexually assault me, but it was everything. It was just so flippin' scary. So I'm just letting you know that was my experience. I'm not gonna name names or anything, and I'm not gonna say where are we now. We got divorced in the year after. It took almost 2 years to get divorced. I mean, it took a long time, but we were divorced in the year, I think it was 2000 ish, and I subsequently got married, and that person wasn't abusive, but there were other factors that played into it not being a healthy relationship. So anyways, I just want to talk about that. Can't stress enough how important it is to reach out and talk to someone and finally realize why you may be in the relationships you've been in. And the fact is you can change your situation, but you have to dig deep. You have to be honest. You have to go get therapy. You have to talk about what you've been through, and you have to trust someone. And that's all there is to it. So that's what I'm here to say. I don't know if my ex or his family watches my videos. I don't think so. I think they've got better things to do, but doesn't matter. This is my truth. They can go on and make their own videos if they have a different side of or different version of events, whatever the case is. But that's all I know. I hope this helps, and I hope you're having a great day. Bye-bye.